What's going on, everyone? It's Ben from YGO from Zero back with another Retro Yu-Gi-Oh video, and in this video I'm going to be taking a brief detour from my breaker coverage to make a video that I was planning on doing for some time, ever since the last Treasure Tournament, because if you don't know, we hold monthly retro format tournaments in our Discord server, link in the description down below if you want to join the next one, and as a prize for winning, the winner gets to sort of, suggest a video for me to do, and, 9 times out of 10 I'll do it because unless it's something like really out there that, I can't put on my channel. But this was the recommendation of the winner from the last tournament, Soul Emerald 69. And this is a treasure format deck that goes into the fusion deck. So basically, its main goal is to use the fusion substitute like Versago, combined with a bunch of, decent fusion materials like Cannon Soldier or Thunder Dragon, or even Witch of the Black Forest, to go into the fusion deck. Now, the issue is in treasure format, there aren't too many good fusion monsters. I mean, they're just kind of big bodies on board. But the main ones you'd be going into are things like Labyrinth Tank, Magician King, Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon, potentially Black Skull Dragon. That is why we're playing a Summon Skull in the deck. But it's kind of an interesting sort of strategy. These guys may not really have effects, but they do have a fair amount of attack. So that can be enough in a format like this. And so I think it's an interesting deck to try and show off. It also is very reminiscent of decks that were appearing in Mecha format with the Fusion Substitute monsters. So it's kind of cool to see if that deck would continue to do decently in Treasure format. So let's dive into the card by card here. This deck is by no means optimized. I just sort of like threw something together just as a proof of concept to see how it would go. But we've got a fair amount of the deck devoted to the fusion materials. So we got Triple Cannon Soldier, like in the Critter format deck, which was Labyrinth Tank Turbo. Triple Cannon Soldier can just be good on its own, but also it does fuel going into Labyrinth Tank, which is not a bad fusion monster to go into. We've also got Triple Magician of Faith. This card is very strong in this format, and also it allows you to reuse Polymerization, which can come up. We've got Mystic Tomato ×3 to bring out your double Sengen, double Witch, and also to bring out Versago if you want it. Which is very nice at being able to fuel your polymerizations as well. We've got the double Sengen, double Witch, as we mentioned before. This guy can search out pretty much anything in the deck, and that is very strong when you need materials for your polymerization. We got the Triple Thunder Dragon here. Helps your deck then also fuses it into Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. We've also got Triple Versago. This is your fusion substitute. Very vital to actually pull off your fusion summons, as if you had to play the other materials for things, it would be pretty rough. Now, Thunder Dragon can go into Twin Head on its own, so you don't need Versago for that. But if you want to go into like Labyrinth Tank, Black Skull Dragon, things like that, then you do need the Versagos here. We also got a single copy of Mechanical Chaser and Summon Skull. Summon Skull goes into Black Skull Dragon, but can also combine with Change of Heart or Snatch Steal in a pinch. And also Mechanical Chaser is just a decent beater that you can search off of Witch if you really need it. For these spells, we've got Change of Heart, Confiscation, Darkhold, Delinquent Duo, Double Fisher. This can help out if your opponent has a monster on board that you need to clear. It can also help out if your opponent like Snatch Deals or Monster Reborn's a fusion monster that you brought out, which is why you're playing the Fishers over something like Trap Hole. We've got Monster Reborn, Triple Mystical Space Typhoon, Triple Polymerization, Pot of Greed, Raigeki, Snatch Steal, Forceful Sentry, and 1 copy of the Upstart Goblin. Now, I have this in here because I feel like drawing into your polymerizations as much as possible is very important for this deck, so I do want this deck to be at 39 cards, but the 1,000 extra life points actually might come up in a deck that sort of aims to get really aggressive like this one. So I'm not really sure how I feel about this. This could definitely come out in the future, but I think it's sort of an interesting thing to test in this deck, and so that's why we did it. And lastly, we've got the single trap in the deck, a Mirror Force. Now, this may seem weird only playing 1 trap, but if your opponent doesn't know that you're only on the 1 Mirror Force, then they might not necessarily, play into like trap holes that aren't there, right? So I think it's fine having the Mirror Force. We have the Fishers to make up for the lack of trap holes. And I think one thing that this deck is really worried about is if our opponent takes like our big monster that we bring out, and trap hole won't really do anything about that. And with any like monster like Mechanical Chaser or something, hopefully we will have the tools to deal with that on our turn with a big fusion monster. So I feel like trap hole isn't necessarily the best in this deck, and it really does need space for its fusion materials. So that's why we got trap holes in the side here to bring in against certain decks that, actually might be useful against. Speaking of the side deck, we also have Double Banisher to deal with decks that, recur things from grave. Not much does, but like, Magician of Faith are very strong. And also, if you do need to sort of wall up a bit, this guy can be good to bring in, as well as it does have 2k defense. We've also got double Mechanical Chaser here in case we need to get a bit more aggressive, double Heavy Storm in case we need more spell and trap removal, triple Tribute to the Doom. This can be good against certain decks that like to set their cards, as there's no Nobleman of Crossout in this format, so this card actually can come up. We've got the triple trap hold, as I mentioned earlier, and lastly the triple Boku in case our opponent's on a bit more of an aggro strat. For the fusion deck, just like with breaker format, this is kind of, a fake fusion deck, as you can just proxy any monster that's out at this time because the fusion deck wasn't limited here. But we have some of the greatest hits here. Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon is likely what you're going to go into the most. We've also got Musician King, which can be made with a Witch and a Versaga, which can come up in weird situations. We've got Labyrinth Tank as well, which can be made with Can Soldier and Versago. Black Skull Dragon can come up if you search out the Summoned Skull and also have the Versago. If you're playing against like Clown Control and you take one of their clowns, you can potentially make Bakuri Box. Same with like Thousand Dragon. If you're playing against the plays Time Wizard, you can potentially take that and make this. And Roaring Ocean Snake and Empress Judge can also be made with some of the direct attackers. So not many decks play those, but it could potentially come up again. And there are some other fusions that could be good to include here, but for the last slot, I just kind of used Gaia the Dragon Champion. But yeah, the fusion deck is a lot less of a toolbox than it was in like breaker format. Because there's just a lot less good fusions to go into. And I think that does hamper this deck quite a bit. But we'll have to see how it actually does in some games. So let's dive into those now. Okay, we're going to start off with a game between PJ Darkness and us, and we're playing the fusion deck. Unclear what PJ is playing, but PJ is a very good treasure format player. They actually co-run the Treasure Trove Discord, which is a place just for treasure. So if you're interested, I'll leave a link to that Discord in the description down below. But this might be a bit of a tough game. Opponent's going to draw for turn. Fire Comfy, which is kind of rough for us, but they don't quite know we're on Fusion yet. This could just be a good stuff deck. Playing Thunder Dragon. You don't know. It could. They're going to hit the Witch out of hand. Fire and Upstart, so it seems like they're also on a bit of an Upstart strat, which is kind of interesting. They're going to set one pass back to us. We draw Versaga. We're just going to pitch this Thunder Dragon here, add 2 Thunder Dragons to hand. Now we have options. If we draw Poly, we can either go into Twin Head or we can go into Labyrinth Tank. So that's kind of neat. And we're going to think about exactly what to do here. We're just going to set the Versaga, set an MST, pass back to them. I feel like, the fact that we have Thunder Dragon online means that holding onto the Versaga is a bit less useful. And also, we really do want a chump blocker on field here. If they overcommit and then we can Dark Hole them, that would be nice. Unfortunately, they have a Forceful, so they can just take back our Dark Hole, which is quite unfortunate for us. But still not the end of the world here. They haven't seen that we're on the Fusion deck still, and they don't know what our set is. So they could respect it as something that it's not. They're going to bring out a Mystic Tomato here, and that's kind of rough because it seems like they're going to get a bit aggressive. They're going to attack into our set. It's just Versago. So now they know what we're on, but, we draw Poly, so I guess this would reveal it either way. We're going to fire the Poly here, bring out a Twin-Headed Thunder Dragon. We could also commit, like, the Can Soldier board to attack their set. But I don't really feel the need to do that. I have the read that their set is something like maybe Witch or Sangan, and I feel like bringing out Cannon Soldier, attacking into their set, just, gives them bait for like a tomato on field to crash into our Cannon Soldier, bring out a Recruiter, which would not be the best for us. So, I feel like the Cannon Soldier wouldn't have been quite the best there. I mean, we could have tributed off the Cannon Soldier in like main phase 2, but then we sort of waste our card, so I don't really want to do that. And I feel like it's fine just keeping it in hand for later. Opponent's going to go for a Painful here, which could be quite painful for us. They're going to send Snatch Shield, Dark Hole, Maneater Bug, and Faith, and Pot of Greed. Now, given that they know we have the MST, I figure that they must also have like an MST or something because, if we give them Snatch Shield, right, like we have the outfit to that. So they have to have like an MST or something, or else they wouldn't have given us the choice to give this card, as this is a card that we can easily blank. So I don't want to give them Snatch Shield, as I feel like them taking the Twin Head is pretty much the end of the game for us if we can't actually clear the Snatch Shield. And so I'm actually going to give them the Maneater Bug here. Magician of Faith we can't give them, as they can get back any of the powerful spells in Grave. Pot of Greed we can't give them, as it gives them 2 cards. Dark Hole cleared to this board and also gets them some searches, which is bad. So I do want to give them the Maneater Bug there. Maybe that was a mistake. Maybe I should have just given them the Snatch Shield and said, well, you got to have MST or Heavy or something here. But this is what I go with. And I think this actually does get a bit punished. So if we see their hand, they don't actually have an MST here, which, maybe shows that I was sort of, mind gaming myself. Or it could have also been a mind game on their part as well. But either way, it didn't quite work out the best for us there. We draw Magician of Faith, though, which is not bad. we can set that, get back a spell. Unfortunately, the only spell in grave is Polymerization, which is not the best for us. So quite unfortunate. This actually would have made the Snatch Heal not that bad for us, because we could have, if they did have the back remove for our MST and then took the Twin Head, then we could Magician of Faith back the MST, pop the Snatch Heal. But it's kind of iffy here. We're just going to set the Cannon Soldier, pass back to them. Hopefully they'll try and Maneater Bug our set Cannon Soldier and not the Twin Head, but unfortunately that will not happen. They're going to bring out a Mechanical Chaser here, hit into our set. It's just Cannon Soldier, so it will die there. And they're going to hit in for 450. Main two, they're going to set one, pass back to us. Change of Heart is okay, but it won't quite come up here. Luckily, we do have the Faith to recycle the Change of Heart, so I think this is really our only move right now. We're going to hit in to the Maneater Bug, then main two, set the Faith, pass back to them. This is very, very telegraphed, but I don't really think there's anything else we can do here. They're going to switch the Witch to attack, fire a Monster Reborn on the Twin Head, and this is getting kind of worrying here. They're going to hit into our set with the Mechanical Chaser. We will be able to get back the Change of Heart, so it's not the worst thing for us. They're going to attack in for 3,900, which is kind of rough. They've not normal summoned this turn. They're going to bring out Cannon Soldier, which can be really bad for us here. They're going to tribute off the Twin Head, tribute off the Witch. They will get a search from that. And we are dropping low on life. They've got Jirai Gumo as well. Tribute off the Cannon Soldier, dropping down at 3150, pass back to us. And we're going to think about this in the end phase. We are just going to fire the MST in case they've got like Wubogu. There are like really random worlds where we can just OTK them with this board. If we draw like Monster Reborn and bring back the Twin Head and Change of Heart, their Mechanical Chaser, that will indeed be game. So we're just going to MST the back row here, as we're probably losing next turn anyways if we don't win. So we just need to go for this now. Unfortunately, it's just a Trapple, which won't really affect us here. But Pot of Greed, if anything can get us out of it, it's that. Unfortunately, that won't quite do it. We are just going to go for a Delinquent Duo here. Now, this is a bit risky because, we do know about the Gumo in hand. So if we set the Versago, they hit over it with Mechanical Chaser and then attack in with Gumo. That is indeed the end of the game. But I feel like I do have to just go for this, as I feel like we're dead on board here. Like, no matter what, if we don't deprive them of cards. And unfortunately, we hit the wrong ones. We hit a Mechanical Chaser and a Sangan. So this will just be the end of the game, as we'll be able to hit into our set there. Last card in hand was Faith. So, I mean, yeah, no, there aren't really many worlds in which we win this. I mean, we could have set the Duo as a bluff. Maybe that would have had them play a bit more defensively. But I don't think we were going to win this game conceivably in any real situation. So, that's going to be the end of game one. Kind of rough, and I think it does show a major flaw with the fusion deck. You have to commit so many resources into the fusion monster, and they are quite easy to clear. And then also your opponent can just take them back. So, it's kind of rough. They can be used against you, and also they're not necessarily the best, not necessarily as good as something like, another sort of sister deck to it, Relinquish, which can actually get removal on field with their monsters guaranteed, with a bit less loss of advantage. But yeah, I mean, that's how this deck goes. I mean, it is kind of fun. And also, if you do manage to, like, OTK your opponent, just, like, saving the fusions for later and going in for a ton of damage, that can work. But I feel like oftentimes this deck is just forced to use up its fusions early to get out of tough spots, and that's not necessarily the best. We're going to set a Mystic Tomato, set an MST, pass back to them. And the reason we do this is we're not really afraid of whatever they normal summon out here. We do have the Fissure for that, and we want to bait out spell and trap removal. So they're going to set two, pass back to us. In the end phase, we're just going to MST their back row. We've got another MST in hand to set as a bluff here. We're going to add another Tomato, flip up our Tomato, attack into their set. It's a Witch. They search out Mechanical Chaser. We are going to attack in with the other Tomato here. And then main two, we're going to set the Trap Hole. If they have a way to clear our tomatoes, we can Trap Hole the Mechanical Chaser, so it's not the worst. We maybe should have set another MST here, because, if they clear our tomatoes, and I mean, there are worlds in which the Trap Hole sort of languishes if they don't play into it. Especially if they clear the tomatoes, they can bring out like a Witch or a Sangan instead. So maybe this was a bit greedy, and they do indeed have a way to clear the tomatoes. They're just going to set one, though, and pass back to us. Now, I figured that one of the reasons why they'd set something here is if they've got, like, Magician of Faith. Because if it's, like, Sangan or Witch, you don't necessarily want to, set it. You want to get aggressive, because you don't really care if it dies. So I figure that's probably like a Magician of Faith or something. And at worst case scenario, if it's a tomato, then we can, sort of clear it with Fissure if we attack into it. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to think about this a bit, and then we're going to bring out this Versago here. We're going to attack into their set, And unfortunately, it is a tomato, so we will have to use the Fissure on that. But I think it's fine. We got Trap Hole to protect the Versago. And I feel like this was the best case scenario. If it was Magician of Faith, they'd be able to get back Raigeki, which would have made Fusion Summoning into Twin Head really, really bad here. So we're just going to pass back to them. They're going to MST our back row, unfortunately, which will prevent us from protecting the Versago. Maybe we should have set the MST as well to sort of obfuscate the Trap Hole, but I feel like they probably would have gone for our OG set either way. We draw Snatch Duel, which is kind of interesting. We could snatch their Mechanical Chaser and then, tribute over it for a Thunder Dragon, but instead I'm going to remove it with this Twin Head. I think this is probably a bit better. And then main 2, we're just going to set this MST, pass back to them. I feel like we're in a decent spot, but Fissure does clear the Twin Head. They're going to attack in with this Mechanical Chaser here, which will drop us down quite a bit. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw Sangan, which isn't the worst. We're just going to set that, pass back to them. We could have gotten a bit aggressive here, so not stealing their Mechanical Chaser, then something at Sangan attacking in. They don't really think that's necessary at this point. They're going to change apart our Sangan, though, which is kind of rough. They're also going to reborn our Twin Head here. And yeah, that is just game. Okay, well, yeah, that can happen sometimes. And again, we're seeing one of the flaws with the Fusion deck is that our opponent can use this to OTK as well. Reborn, Snatch Steal, Change of Heart, all those things can be used to take our big monsters and just wipe out our life points. So kind of rough here. I think we probably played this as well as we potentially could have. I mean, if we had Snatch Stealed the Mechanical Chaser and summoned out Sangan and got in for some damage, that might have been the better option here. But they did have ways to clear this with, like, Twin Head, Jiraigumo. So I don't really think that's the best outcome for us. But, it is what it is. Maybe we would have survived a little bit longer. But that isn't the only game that I've got with this Fusion deck that was against a bit more of a meta pick, although, playing Jiraigumo in the main is a bit rare, but this still seemed like a bit more of a meta deck. I also have a game against an off-meta deck to see how this does against potentially Tier 2 or Rogue strats. So let's dive into that now and see how it goes. Okay, we've got a game against Soul65, and this is nice because they were actually the one who suggested this for the video, so kind of cool to feature them on camera in their video. So very cool to see. We are going to win the rock, paper, scissors. So we will be going first here. And we will open a... Oh, that hand's... I mean, it's okay. I mean, oof, all 3 recruiters. There's one more left in deck, but kind of interesting. We're going to set a Sangan, set an MST, pass back to them. And see what they do here. They're going to think about this a bit. Fired swords. We could have MST'd that, but I don't really feel the need to yet. They're going to go for Painful here. Send Duo, Comfy, Forceful, Sonic Bird, and Sangan. So that means that they are on a bit of a ritual strat. Now, if they summon out Sonic Bird, they get the search immediately, which is kind of rough, so we might not want to give them that. But, if we give them Sangan, they can just search out Sonic Bird, which is one more level of deck thinning. So I do just want to give them the Sonic Bird here. So we're going to give them the bird, in the nicest way possible. And let's see what they do here. They're going to just set one, set another, pass back to us. Now, potentially, that could be like a Sonic Bird. And so something we could potentially do here is summon out Witch, MST their swords, and then attack into their set. If it's Sonic Bird, then that will, prevent it from getting the search. And, we can also get in for Sangan, potentially. However, I feel like it's a bit greedy, as, they could have just set like a Sangan or a Witch potentially. And I don't really want to waste the MST now, especially if they are on Relinquished. MST can be very, very good at sort of sniping whatever Relinquished equips to it. So I want to save the MST for later. So I actually just play this a bit passively, set the Witch, pass back to them. We can sort of wait out the swords and save swords for later. Or save MST for later, that is. They're going to search out the Black Illusion Ritual here, and they are going to reborn the Sangan, which is kind of rough for us, as this means that they can just, use Black Illusion Ritual on the Sangan if they've got the Relinquished in hand. It looks like they do. So they're going to bring out that Relinquished. They're going to suck up, or first they get their search. But yeah, they're going to choose to suck up our set here, which is honestly fine. This makes Relinquished a 0/0 attacker. Unfortunately, Masked Sorcerer will be able to get in for 900 damage, which is kind of rough for us. We're going to grab a Magician of Faith here. Just a very good utility card. But we do potentially have a pretty interesting line next turn. Unfortunately, they do get a draw here. They'll pass back to us. Upstart Goblin is interesting. We're going to fire that. Just try and draw something else. Dark Hole is also very cool. So we could do potentially Dark Hole the board set Witch and pass back to them. I think that's really good. We get the search off their set. But I think we might want to save Dark Hole for later, so we are just going to MST these swords, bring out a Mystic Tomato here, and try hitting into their Sonic Bird, because this lets us get out another monster from deck. We can hit over the Masked Sorcerer and deprive them of that. we're going to choose to bring a Sangam because something they could do here is just attack Relinquished into our monster, and then, drop off the equip and then suck up our monster. And if they do that, we want the Sangam on field instead of like a tomato, because then we get a search off the Sangam when it's sent to the graveyard. We're just going to set this poly as a bit of a bluff here. We can use this later, but we don't really have the tools to use this in hand now. They're going to think about this for quite a bit, and then they're just going to set one, pass back to us. And this is another reason we brought up Sangam, because there is the potential of just dark holding this board. And that is indeed what I'm going to do here. I'll dark hole the board, and that's very good because it was a Magician of Faith, so very, very good that we did that. We do get 2 searches here, so we're going to search out Summon Skull, and we're going to search out a Mystic Tomato here. The reason we search out Summon Skull is because now we can go for Poly, sending Versago and Skull to bring up Black Skull Dragon, 3200 attack. This is getting in for a lot of damage. Unfortunately, now we have no back row bluff, so they know they can pretty much do whatever they want. And also, we do forget to search with Thunder Dragon. That could potentially really come back to bite us. So let's hope we don't draw Thunder Dragon next turn. But yeah, I should have just searched for Thunder Dragon there. Very big misplay on my part. Luckily, it doesn't punish us, and now we're just going to search the Thunder Dragon this turn, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We summon up Mystic Tomato, switch to defense, and just attack in with Tomato and Black Skull. I think maybe something I should have done here is switch the Black Skull to defense in case they get Mirror Force. This keeps our biggest monster on field. Unfortunately, if they suck that up with the Relinquished, it's 3200, so I'm not sure I necessarily want to do that. So I'm just going to attack in with the Tomato and the Black Skull. They do indeed have Mirror Force. We're not going to get a search here, which is quite unfortunate. But now we'll pitch the Thunder Dragon, grab 2 Thunder Dragons to hand, set this MST pass back to them, and yeah, so maybe we could have played that turn differently, but I think it's ultimately fine. They're going to grab a Relinquished off this Senju here, and this could get pretty bad for us. They're going to flip up a Witch, which is ultimately fine by us. And they're just going to attack into the Witch and then attack directly. So we do get a searcher. We're going to grab the Mystic Tomato because, again, Mystic Tomato into Senju. You can get a card here, which could be pretty good. They're just going to pass back to us. We draw Poly, so we could potentially get really aggressive here, especially now that their Mirror Force is gone. Bring out the Mystic Tomato. Go for the Fusion Summon here. They're going to think, but in this format, I'm pretty sure you can actually Solemn the Fusion monster when it's brought out, which is something that does change in later formats, so it's good to know about. But they're going to think about this. That's ultimately going to be fine by them. We're going to attack into their Senju here, bring out a Cannon Soldier as we are out of like Witches and Sangans. We're going to hit in to their Witch and then attack directly with this Cannon Soldier here. They do get a search, which is a bit unfortunate, especially if they search out like Sonic Bird. They are indeed going to do that. So now they do have the Relinquished combo online, but they are really... Oh, well, I guess Waboku will prevent them from going down to 15. If they were at 15, I think maybe tributing off the Cannon Soldier and the Twin Head would have been a good idea here, as then they don't have fodder for the... Or they don't have things to suck up for Relinquished at least. And that could be pretty good for us. They'd also be at 500. I think with them at 1900, though, it's not really as worth it, especially given that we do have the MST set, so, we can do stuff here if they go for Relinquished. They're going to go for the Black Illusion Ritual, tribute this Mystic Tomato in hand, go for Relinquish here, and suck up the Twin Head. So, pretty rough. That'll go up to 2800, but we do have the MST here. They're going to attack into our Cannon Soldier. We're going to MST their Twin Head, and unfortunately they do have Solve for that, so we will be taking a fair amount of damage here, but also on the bright side, they are at 1450, which is pretty low, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We draw Pot of Greed, which is really good. We draw Comfy and Versago, not really worth firing Comfy now. We're just going to set it as a bluff. They're going to think about this a bit, bring out a Mystic Tomato here, and just attack in for everything. They're going to hit in to our set with the Sonic Bird, so unfortunately this will indeed be lethal. But if they attacked in with a Relinquish instead, then, this could have actually been a bit different. But for them, they really had no reason to not attack in with the Sonic Bird or the Tomato, because there aren't really things in this format that really punish that too much. Like, the worst thing would be, like, if we had a Giant Soldier Stone or a Banisher up, but then they could just clear that with Relinquished and attack him with Tomato. This way, if they attacked a monster with less than 1400 defense, they get in for lethal. So I think this was definitely the right play. We were also out of Mystic Tomatoes, so there's no swarming capability. So yeah, this was definitely the right play on their part. And unfortunately, that will indeed kill us here. So, not much we could have done in that scenario at the end of the game there. There were some potential points we could have potentially changed our lines a little bit, but I think, our opponent played that really well, and there weren't really many things we could do there to change the outcome. But that was cool. We got to bring out 2 fusion monsters in one game, so very, very neat. Going into games 2 and 3, the Relinquish deck is kind of tricky because we don't really have much in our side deck for it. So I don't really bring in anything in from the side. I guess, I think I might bring in heavies maybe just to clear the Eclipse. But even that's kind of lackluster, so. Oh, speaking of lackluster, this opener is really rough. You never want to draw 2 Thunder Dragons in the opener, but unfortunately it does happen sometimes, a risk of drawing Thunder Dragon or playing it at least. We're going to set a Witch here, pass back to our opponent. They're going to go for a Painful here, and that's a bit of a loaded send. I feel like we just want to give them the Sangan. Change could be potentially good, but they're not going to change our Witch right now because we have no spells engraved, so there's no way to Faith. And for when we do want to set our Faith, we don't want to have like change to worry about. So I do just want to give them the Sangan. It's kind of unfortunate, but it is just what the best option here is, I think. They're going to send the other 4 to grave, and they're just going to set one, set another, pass back to us. Now, this is a bit risky. If they've got Magician of Faith set there, then firing the Raigeki is definitely the right choice, as it deprives them of any of the powerful spells they sent to grave there. But we did just give them the Sangan, so it could definitely be Sangan. So we kind of have to decide whether we want to go for that or not. We're going to go for Upstart Goblin here, draw 1, and Cannon Soldier, so not really the most useful for us. What we're going to try and do here is get in for a bit of damage here, bring out Mystic Tomato, attacking into their set. We do know they're on Mass Sorcerer, so we do attack with the Tomato first. And they're going to get a search off that Sangan, searching out a Sonic Bird here. We're going to attack in directly for 1100 and drop them down to 7900. We'll pass back to them. They're going to go for Pot of Greed here, drawing 2. And they're going to summon out this Sonic Bird, searching out a Black Illusion Ritual. And they're going to bring out Relinquish off that Black Illusion Ritual. They're going to suck up the Tomato, which is the correct choice here, as we don't get a search off that. And they're going to hit in for 3 plus 14. We do get a search here, so we're going to grab a Mystic Tomato. As Mystic Tomato can actually clear this board, what we do is we summon up Mystic Tomato, crash into Sonic Bird, bring another Mystic Tomato, crash into Relinquish, and then bring out like a Sangan and crash into the Relinquish. So, it's kind of funny that this card can just deal with the board on its own. Now, the risk is if we draw into the other Tomato, but we didn't, so we feel pretty good about this. We're just going to bring out that Tomato, attack in to their Sonic Bird, search out another Tomato, and then we're going to attack into the Relinquish with this Tomato. So they're going to think about this, so that means that they might have something like Waboku or Mirror Force or something like that. But I feel like if they were going to fire it, they would have used it earlier, so there's not really much they can do at this point now. Another juncture where they could use it is right now, because if they use it now, they get to suck up the Sangan next turn. So, it was either at the beginning of the battle phase or right now, and they are indeed going to use it now. Now, main phase 2, we could potentially Raigeki the Relinquish, but honestly, I'm not too threatened if they suck up the Sangan, because, we get a search off that when it's destroyed. So, I'm just going to let this go. If they commit more to board, then we can Raigeki that. But I think this is probably the right choice. Unfortunately, they do bring out a Mass Sorcerer, so I do get punished for this. If I had Raigeki the Relinquish, they would have had to clear the Sangan through other means, and, they might not have gotten the draw. I mean, let's just see their hand right now. Yeah, they didn't actually have a way to clear the Sangan, so, or at least clear the Sangan and also bring out Sorcerer. So, yeah, maybe I should Raigeki the Relinquish, but I think it's okay. We've got a very good Raigeki target this turn, so it's not the worst thing in the world. We are just going to think about this a bit, and we are just going to bring out the Cannon Soldier here, attacking the Mass Sorcerer. We're actually going to choose not to Raigeki this board right now, because I feel like we can still deal with this board. They'd have to get rid of the Sangan some way to suck up our Cannon Soldier, and there are some things that do it, like Snatch Seal would really hurt for us, because that's 2400 damage with just attacking. If they have another monster, then that probably is game. So I think I do just have to go for a Reborn here, bring back a Witch, just to be safe, in case they do have Snatch Seal or Change. Although Change is engraved, so we don't have to play around that. But if they got Snatch Seal, then we do want to play it a bit safe. I'm going to think about this. They do indeed have the Snatch Seal, so I'm glad we did that. They're going to hit in to our Witch here. We do get a search, so we're going to grab a Mechanical Chaser. They're going to get in for 2100 damage. So, maybe I should have used the Raigeki earlier just to prevent myself from taking these sort of chip damage shots, because now I'm at really low life, and there are many, many things that can kill me. They're going to pay 5, get rid of the Cannon Soldier there, set another, pass back to us, and it's kind of rough. We're going to go for a Mechanical Chaser here, fire the Raigeki. They're going to think about this a bit, and they are just going to let that go through. We get a search here. They also get a search. They get to search first, so I shouldn't have searched out the Witch first. I should have seen what they got. I think it's ultimately fine. I mean, searching out a Sangan makes perfect sense there. We're going to go for a poly here, bringing out a twin-headed Thunder Dragon. Just to get even more aggressive pressure on board. We're going to hit in for 4650, which is a fair amount of damage, dropping them down to 2750. If they don't have a way to deal with this board, then we do have game in like next turn, basically. We're going to set one, set another, pass back to us. We draw Versago, and that's not really useful for us here. We're going to attack into their set with the Mechanical Chaser. Unfortunately, they do have Mirror Force, so that will clear our board. We're just going to set the Faith, pass back to them. We could have also set the Witch of the Black Forest here. If they have a Faith set, and they bring back Change, then they could use Change of Heart to, flip up Faith and get another spell here. But if they do that, we basically lose by setting Witch either way, as they could just have another monster in hand, bring out, that's 1400 damage on board, and then plus whatever other monster they have, that's probably lethal. If not, they can just bring out a cancel at any point if they're playing it in their deck. So I feel like setting the Faith here is the more high risk play, but it's also the more high reward play. And even if we set the Witch, we were probably going to suffer for it either way there if they have a Faith set. So I feel like I have to do this. Unfortunately, they do have a Faith set. They're going to grab back Reborn, which is kind of interesting. I think Change of Heart would have been better there. They might not have a monster in hand in that case. No, they've got monsters in hand. So yeah, I think Change of Heart would have been the play there. There were very few instances where Change of Heart doesn't just win the game. I mean, the one instance would be if this was Maneater. No, Maneater Bug, it still would win the game, because if you change Maneater Bug, flip it up, pop Magician, and then summon out Senju, that will indeed be lethal. So, I think it was a minor misplay on the part of our opponent. I don't think it will matter in the end, because this is still going to be lethal, because they bring out Senju, and then they just attack in with Senju first. So it doesn't matter here. It's just a minor sort of thing. I think it probably would have been better just to Change of Heart. But, it's fine. It did indeed win them the game here. And I think this does show one of the flaws of the Fusion deck. Not only can your opponent take your big monsters from grave, but also if you draw like the Versagos or the Polys at the wrong time, they can just brick up your hand. And you're already using up so many resources to bring out your Fusion monsters that you really can't afford bricks like that in a deck like this. So I think this deck is really fun to play because, it's really cool. It can bring out Fusion monsters like somewhat consistently. Like I think every game we played, we brought out a Fusion monster, which is really cool to see, as Fusion monsters are always viewed as kind of inconsistent in the early days of the game, but I feel like this deck shows that they can actually be consistent and bring out. Unfortunately, once you bring them out, they don't really do enough to win you the game in most cases. So I don't really think this deck is that good. I think it's probably rogue at best, if not trash. But it is very fun to play, and if you want to play Treasured format and you want to get like a very sort of cool anime experience, I think this is definitely the deck for you. Unfortunately, I do think things like Relinquished do outclass it, which is cool to see the other new summoning mechanic actually, sort of beating the other summoning mechanic in the game at that point. So kind of cool to see. But also the good stuff decks also majorly outclass this as well. So it's kind of unfortunate that the deck turned out this way, but still very, very cool idea, and thank you to Soul for recommending it. I had a blast constructing it and also making this video. But what do you think of this deck? Do you think that I just completely misplayed it and that, if it's built differently, it could actually be a lot better than I make it out to be? Or do you think that this deck is really, really bad and isn't really worth playing outside of some like YouTube combo videos or just the fun of Fusion summoning? Let me know down in the comments below. Also, if you enjoy this sort of content, please do subscribe to the channel. We release retro duels like this, quite often. So if you enjoy this content, definitely subscribe. And we're almost at 1,000 subscribers, so it would be really cool to reach that goal by the end of November, and you can help us do that. But until next time, I've been Ben from YGO from Zero, and I'm signing off.